The warning that never came. The stars were quiet. Too quiet. Commander Rallick of the Empire's Border Watch sat in his control chair, eyes fixed on the black screen in front of him. Nothing had changed for years. No enemy. No threats. Just peace. Until now, a red alert light began blinking. No sound. No signal. Just one word on the screen. Unknown object detected. Rallick leaned forward. "What is this?" he whispered. The object had no ID code, no engine signature. It had simply appeared. He ordered the station's scanner team to zoom in. The image that came up made everyone in the room go silent. A ship, big, black, not like anything they had seen before. "Send a transmission," Rallick said. They tried. No reply. Try again. Still silence. Then came a strange sound. Not a voice, not a language, just a hum, deep and low, like the growl of something ancient and angry. Across the galaxy, in the Empire's capital, Grand Admiral Kelros stood before the High Council. He laughed when Rallick's report arrived. "One ship?" he scoffed. "We have thousands. Let it sit there. Let it watch. When it moves, we'll destroy it." The Council agreed. They believed the Empire was safe, strong, unbeatable. They didn't know what was coming. Back on the border station, the strange ship still hadn't moved. But its shadow covered the entire monitoring platform. Rallick checked the size again. "This thing is massive. At least 5 times bigger than our dreadnoughts." A junior officer spoke. "Sir, this ship, it's human." Everyone froze. That word hadn't been used in over 200 years. Humans were a forgotten name. A broken people, lost after the Empire's Great War. No one had seen them since. How is that possible? Rallick asked. No one had an answer. Suddenly, the lights in the station flickered. The air grew heavy. Then all screens went black. One word appeared. "We remember." Panic filled the room. The station's defenses activated automatically. Missiles, shields, and drones powered up. Rallick shouted, "Do not fire unless it attacks." But the ship still didn't move. It was waiting. Watching. Judging. The Empire's fleet arrived an hour later. 20 battleships surrounding the human warship. They sent warnings, threats, warnings again. Still, silence. Then the human ship responded. Not with words. With power. A single beam of light flashed. 1 second, 2 Imperial ships vanished. Just gone. No explosion. No wreckage. Nothing. The remaining ships tried to escape, but they couldn't move. Their systems shut down. Gravity twisted. Lights bent. It was like the laws of physics no longer applied near the human ship. On the border station, alarms screamed. Rallick watched, heart pounding, as the enemy ship finally moved, slowly turning to face the Imperial fleet's command ship. And then it stopped. The voice came next. Calm, cold. "You erased us. You forgot us. But we never forgot you." Rallick whispered, "They're not here to negotiate." The junior officer looked pale. "Sir, this is not war. This is judgment." In the capital, Grand Admiral Kelros stared at the live feed. The council sat frozen in silence. "They didn't send an army," Kelros muttered. "They sent a message. The Empire had always been ready for war. But no one had warned them that a human warship would come without sound, without light, without mercy. And by the time they saw it, it was already too late. Asterisk, we saw it too late. The Empire's command ships were gone. Just like that. No sound, no fire, no wreckage. Only empty space where 2 powerful vessels had been a moment ago. Commander Rallick stood frozen on the border station. His crew stared at the monitors in disbelief. How can a ship do that? Someone whispered. Rallick didn't answer. He didn't know. But he knew one thing clearly now. This was not a normal warship not far above. The human ship remained still. It didn't chase. It didn't move. It only turned slowly, like a lion circling prey. Then something worse happened. All across the outer empire, hundreds of civilian colonies began to flicker off the map. Communications stopped. Satellites failed. Whole cities went dark. And still no explosions, no attacks. Just silence. Admiral Tehran, one of the youngest fleet leaders, watched the reports come in from her starcruiser. "This isn't war," she said. "It's a message." Her second-in-command, Lieutenant Korik, nodded slowly. "They didn't come to fight. They came to show us that we can't stop them." They tried launching counterattacks. Fighters, missiles, drones, none made it within 100 kilometers. Some weapons vanished mid-flight. Others returned, turning around and crashing into their own launchers. It was as if space itself had turned against them. One colony managed to send a final video before it went offline. The footage was shaky. A boy with a camera ran through the streets, screaming. Behind him, something massive filled the sky, something dark, silent, and shaped like the human warship. But in the video, it wasn't firing. It was scanning, looking, searching, then came a sound. Not an explosion, a whisper. "You took our future. Now we take yours." And the screen turned black. Back on the capital planet, panic spread through the government. Some said it was fake. Others said it was an illusion, human trickery. But Admiral Kelros had seen enough. He had fought humans before. And this was not the same species. They vanished for 200 years, he told the council. Now they return with one ship and break everything we have. This isn't just payback. This is evolution. A scientist stood up from the back of the room. "They didn't vanish," he said. "They were building." "Building what?" "Something we cannot understand." In the outer rim, Commander Ralek finally gave the order. "Evacuate the station. All staff. Now." The junior officer looked at him. "But what about the ship?" Ralek looked at the massive warship on the screen, still silent, still hovering. "We're not its target. Not yet. But if we stay, we'll become its memory." As the station emptied, the human warship began to move again. Not fast, not aggressive, just forward, every motion felt. Deliberate, calculated. Cold Ralek stayed behind until the last ship left. He turned one final time to the screen and whispered to himself, "We saw it too late. And now we all pay for forgetting." The War Council laughed, then screamed. The High War Council of the Empire sat in a grand marble chamber, walls lined with gold and banners from 1,000 conquered worlds. 12 admirals, 1 emperor, and too much pride. A hologram showed. The human warship floating above a ruined colony. Smoke rose behind it. The stars were quiet again. Admiral Krullen stood and laughed. "One ship. A ghost ship from Earth, sent to scare children," he said. "Our fleet will crush it before sunset," the others chuckled. Even the Emperor smirked. To them, humans were extinct, beaten, forgotten. They were wrong. Suddenly, the main screen blinked. Live feed. Fleet Command Outpost 6. 20 Empire warships full power facing the human vessel. Admiral Varric, watching from his throne, waved his hand. "Play it." Everyone leaned in. The transmission began. All ships opened fire at once. Hundreds of missiles flew. Plasma cannons lit the stars, and the human warship? It stood still. Every missile froze in midspace. Plasma blasts curved, turned reverse direction. In less than 10 seconds, the Empire's most elite fleet was gone. Destroyed by their own weapons. Live on screen. In front of the entire council, no explosion from the human side. No sound. Just control. The council chamber fell silent. Then came the voice dot. It didn't come from the feed. It came through every speaker in the palace, every screen, every ear. You built an empire on the bones of others. You erased us. Now feel what it's like to be erased. The lights flickered, the floor vibrated, and one of the golden statues cracked and fell right beside the emperor's chair. He didn't smile anymore. In the hallway, guards ran to protect the palace, but no one attacked. The human ship wasn't even near the capital. It was still floating above a dead planet, unmoving yet shaking an entire empire from light years away. Admiral Krullen dropped his drink. "This is not a ship," he whispered. "It's a god." "No," said Admiral Varric, his face pale. "It's a memory. And we're the ones being remembered." Meanwhile, back in deep space, a young Empire pilot named Lise stood on a repair ship near the ruined fleet. She stared at the warship in the distance. It didn't move, didn't scan her, didn't destroy her. It was letting her love. On purpose. She knew then. They're not just fighting back. They're teaching us fear. Back in the council room, the Emperor stood up. "Send everything we have, every fleet, every soldier. Crush them." But no one moved. Not this time. They had seen too much. And deep inside, they knew this wasn't war. This was punishment. One ship, one message. The Empire had sent warnings. They had sent fleets. They had sent threats. The human ship replied with silence. Until now, a signal appeared in every sector. Not a screen. Not a declaration. Just one voice, calm, slow, deadly. "We are not conquerors. We are not saviors. We are the memory you tried to bury. This is your reminder." In a hidden chamber beneath the imperial capital, scientists replayed the signal. It wasn't just a voice. It had layers. Under the message, they found codes, data, coordinates. Commander Terrell, recently returned from the failed front, studied the codes closely. "These are names," he said. "Planet names and people." The assistant beside him swallowed hard. "Sir, they're all human colonies. Ones we destroyed long ago, and next to every name, a timestamp, a date, a death count." Suddenly, the lights dimmed. The central screen cracked, displaying one line, "Justice arrives." Somewhere far beyond the capital, a human ship moved again. Not toward a fleet, not toward a throne, but toward a small planet, the site of the Empire's first human massacre. 217 years ago. The Empire never told the truth about that day. They said humans had rebelled. They said the Empire brought peace. But the human ship knew the real story, because it carried the last recordings from that planet. Children screaming, fires burning, and a single girl's voice crying out, "Please, someone remember us." Now someone had. The ship had returned, not just as a weapon, but as a witness. The Emperor watched helplessly as the ship projected the ancient footage across the sky of a dozen planets. Billions of civilians, Imperial citizens, watched the truth for the first time. It wasn't just humans who were angry now. The Empire's own people began to ask, what else have they hidden? On a mining world near the border, workers laid down their tools. On a military outpost, a young captain refused to fire. Across the stars, doubt spread like fire. The Empire was cracking, not from war, but from truth. Admiral Kelros stood before the council again. He pointed at the screen showing the human ship. That is not just metal. That is memory turned into fire. And every second we lie, it gets stronger. The council remained silent. Even the Emperor had no words, because for the first time in 300 years, they were being judged by the dead. Meanwhile, in the silence of space, the human ship floated above the ruined planet. No weapons fired. No shields raised. It simply released a final message. This is not war. This is remembrance. And we are not done. Then it vanished. No light, no sound. Just gone. But it left something behind. Fear, truth, and the knowledge that it could return any time. Anywhere, for anyone. Asterisk. The Empire's greatest fleet. Erased. The Empire had enough of fear. Enough of silence. Enough of the past. So they launched everything. At Star Fortress Draven, the largest military station ever built. Thousands of ships stood ready. Dreadnoughts. Destroyers. Carriers. Over 3,000 warships. Powered by the Empire's strongest cores. Admiral Viker, known as the Iron Hammer, stood on the bridge of the Empire's flagship, the Vengeance. "We do not fear ghosts," he shouted. "We erase them." The fleet cheered. They believed today would be victory. They believed wrong. As the fleet left orbit, hundreds of cameras broadcast the event across the Empire. Propaganda played on every screen. The fleet marches. The Empire rises. The human threat ends today. But no one smiled. Not really. Because somewhere deep inside, everyone remembered what that ship had done without even firing a full volley. The fleet reached Sector V9, an empty starfield, near the ruins of an old colony. The human warship was already there. Waiting. Admiral Viker grinned. "They're not running this time." He raised his hand. "All ships lock weapons. Fire on my mark." But before the order was given, the stars changed. Literally. The sky bent. Ships turned sideways without moving. Pilots screamed as gravity reversed inside their cockpits. One destroyer vanished into its own shadow. Time slowed. Then snapped. The human ship hadn't fired. It had simply arrived fully. And reality abated, not the other way around. Admiral Viker gave the order. "Fire everything." Thousands of beams, missiles, torpedoes shot into space. The warship didn't dodge. Instead, it pulsed. Just once. A deep blue wave burst from its hull. Quiet, beautiful. Deadly. Within seconds, the fleet's missiles turned to ash. Shields melted. Engines froze mid-flame. One by one, the Empire's greatest warships went dark, silently. Without explosions. Without glory. Just gone. On a nearby observation craft, a young cadet named Mela watched in horror. "This isn't war," she whispered. "It's a funeral." Back in the capital, the broadcast suddenly cut to black. No voice. No music. No celebration. The message was clear. "You sent your best. We didn't even try. Now do you understand?" The Emperor stood in his throne room, gripping the edges of his chair. Only one word left his lips. Impossible. But it wasn't. Not anymore. The Empire's greatest fleet ships, built over centuries, had been erased in less than 1 minute. And the warship? It still had not revealed its full power. Back in space, the human ship floated once more. Alone among wreckage. It didn't speak. It didn't celebrate. It simply turned and pointed toward the capital. For the first time in generations, the people of the Empire asked, "Will anyone survive what comes next?" Asterisk. The last throne room. The throne room of the Empire had never been silent. But now, even the walls felt cold. The Emperor sat on his tall black throne, hands shaking. Outside, the skies turned red. The defense grid was online. The capitals. Fleet stood ready. All planetary shields were up, and still, no one felt safe. The human warship was coming, not with an army, not with noise, but with a promise. "We are not here to conquer. We are here so you will never forget." The Emperor stood and barked at his generals. "Arm the Omega Protocol. Lock down the city. I want every turret on that ship." But there was no answer. Half of his generals were gone, some missing. Others defected, some simply refusing to fight Dot in just days. The warship had broken centuries of fear-based rule. Without touching the ground high above the capital, the sky cracked. Tear opened in the clouds. Not a storm, not a weapon, just presence. The human warship appeared slowly, its shadow covering cities. People stared up. Some screamed, some knelt, and some wept not from fear, but from something deeper. Shame inside the throne room. Commander. Terrell entered without knocking. He looked different, pale, tired, changed. My Emperor, he said, you must step down. This ends now. The Emperor laughed bitterly. Step down? I built this galaxy. Terrell replied quietly. No, you broke it. Suddenly, the room shook. Not from bombs, not from ships, from truth. Every screen inside the palace lit up uninvited footage. Rolled, executions, burned colonies, silenced civilians, and hidden orders signed by the Emperor himself. The Empire's darkest secrets, exposed in its holiest room. And then the voice returned. From nowhere, from everywhere. You called us savages. You erased our children. You built a palace on our graves. We do not want revenge. We want you to see yourself. The Emperor screamed, shut it off. But the power was no longer his. Suddenly, the doors to the throne room blew open. No explosion. Just air moving aside, like it feared what was coming. In. No soldiers walked through. No bombs. No robots. Just a single floating object, small, silver, human-made. A drone. It hovered silently before the Emperor and played one last message, a child's voice. My name was Elia. I was 6. I wanted to be a painter. You burned my home. And then the drone blinked blue and powered down. No threat, no weapon, just memory. The Emperor collapsed into his throne. No more, he whispered. I can't breathe. Commander Terrell turned his back on him. Then you finally feel what we made others feel. Outside, the human warship slowly turned. It did not fire. It did not land. Its job was done. The Emperor would live, but the Empire would never be the same again. We warned you. Now watch. The human warship had left. No explosion, no flames, no final attack. Just silence and shame. Across the Empire, cities waited for destruction. But it never came. People had expected death. But what arrived instead was truth. Screens all across the galaxy now played the same thing. Not war footage, not fear, but stories. Real names, real faces, real children. Stories of humans who had once lived in peace. Before they were erased by the Empire's greed, people wept, soldiers dropped their guns, and teachers began telling new history in their classrooms. In the capital, the Emperor hadn't spoken in 2 days. He sat in the throne room, alone. No guards, no banners, no applause. Just one screen in front of him, replaying the message. We warned you. Now watch what becomes of your lies. Commander Terrell stood outside the palace, speaking to the crowd. There will be no war, no revenge, he said, but there will be memory. He opened a signal to the galaxy. Not just to the Empire, but to everyone. We were warned. We ignored it. Now we remember. Not because they conquered us, but because they showed us who we really are. Back in deep space, the human warship hovered near a quiet moon. No name, no ID, no need for glory. Inside the ship, no crew was seen. It wasn't controlled by humans anymore. It was something else now, a machine of remembrance, a voice for those who had none. The ship opened a final broadcast, short, cold, clear. We will not return to rule. We will not stay to lead. We will only appear When you forget again. And then the warship vanished into stars, into myth, into warning. The Empire, once proud and merciless, now rebuilt from its knees. Its people were not ruled by fear anymore, by the memory of a ship that came once silent, alone, unstoppable. Now, every child in the Empire grows up learning a different lesson. There was a time we forgot humanity, but humanity never forgot us.